Thank you for joining us here on TimForrest.com. Hey, I look forward today to sharing with you information regarding new item forms, getting them set up, what the purpose of the new item form is, and then also filling them out and the information you need to have prepared before you begin process and working with a new item form. Before we get started into actually getting into the form, let's talk about what they're for. Why do these multi-unit store locations require us to complete a new item form, and what is it that's actually happening with this form? If you understand the use of the form, it might help a little bit in understanding why we're doing the information here, putting that in there. Well, the first thing is for the receiving warehouse, is for understanding the pallets, how much product comes on a pallet, how much space the retailer is going to need in the warehouse and or trucks and on the shelf. Along with in the warehouse and distribution, when they're opening cases, it helps them to understand what they need to order to ship to the stores. And also the new item form helps the retailer or operator get your items set up in the registers to scan. It's used in ordering info, so your buyer will actually use this when reordering product. It's used in shipping and helping them understand how much product weight can go on a truck. It helps with pricing, returns, recalls, and then also there's other internal systems that they use to keep up with new item form. Let's go ahead and get prepared to complete the form. You're going to need, prior to working on the form, you're going to need some basic information to input into the form. So go ahead and get your contact and ship information. So you're going to need addresses for your warehouse and for your office space. Also, if you have a different warehouse or location for payment, you want to have all that information available. You're going to need all the UPCs for your products. You're going to need all the case sizes. So we're going to need length, width, and height for all your case sizes. We're going to need to understand your pallet information. So if you've never shipped to a multi-store retailer, you may not have pallet information, but you can get that from your co-packer, or you might have to build it. So you're going to need to know how many cases are on a pallet, what the tie and height, how many case layers there are, and then how high they go on the pallet. You want to know your shelf life information, and then also there may be some specific requests on allergen or item or ingredient information. Okay, should be ready to get started. The new item form is going to be made up of 4 basic sections. The first part is going to be usually the header, is going to be the vendor or your company information, and then the other 3 sections are going to generally be product information, case specifications, and then pallet configuration. So let's get right into it. To begin filling out the product sheet, you're going to need to add your business information along with your billing address. This is where correspondence checks, paper checks, things of that nature will be mailed, along with terms and other information and addresses for your location, for your offices, warehouse location if it's an additional or secondary location, and then possibly other addresses as well. But this is where the vendor information, contact information goes, or basically it's your company. When we drop down below, generally on these new item forms down below, they're going to have an item description followed by the information for that product. And so you only have so much space to put in there, so you need to be concise and quick with your product description. It needs to be the flavor, generally description of the product, what the product is, what the flavor, and then also the brand profile, brand of that particular product. You're going to need to add the item UPC, and this is going to be 12 digits, 12 numerical digits on. It's never going to be anything other than a digit, and this is the numerical equivalent of that scannable strip of black bars that you see on the side of the box, which we call a UPC. If you're curious about UPCs, if you don't know, the first digit on the side is simply just telling the machine language to start and go forward. Then you've got 5 digits that are the manufacturer number, and so these 5 digits would represent, say, Kraft Foods or Coca-Cola, and they would just be the numbers that tell you the company. The trailing 5 digits after the manufacturer code, they're going to be the actual item number. So if we're dealing with Kraft Foods item and then 0047, whatever, it would be five digits long, and it can be zeros up to, say for instance, number 1 would be 4 zeros followed by the 1. And then that would be for the item. And then the last digit, which is at the edge of the UPC scannable strip of black bars, that's going to be what they call a check digit. And that's basically an error detecting number that is a function of your manufacturer and item number. And, there are places online that you can check that, just see if the UPCs are correct, manufacturers. before they enter this into the system specifically for the cash registers, they will actually do a check to see that it's that they've actually loaded it correctly and it is correct. After the UPC, you'll often ask you for unit size, and so for instance, if it's 16 ounces, you're going to put down the number 16. You want to separate out the quantity, the units from the actual unit of measurement. So if this is a 16 ounce product, you're going to put ounces next to that. As far as the product size, when we're talking about length, width, and height, this is going to be for shelf space management. So actually going on the shelf, if you have 1 unit of your product, how much shelf space will it take up? So how deep does it go into the case? How wide is it? And then how tall is it? If you have an extra tall item, it's not going to fit on any of the shelves. Actually, it'll need to go to the top shelf, or it won't even fit into the set at all if it's too tall. And so that's always a consideration when considering products, packaging, and sizes. You're going to be asked about how many units fit in a case, and so case quantity. So it'd be, say, for instance, if it's a case with a dozen in it, you put in 12. There's other things they're going to ask for. Generally on a new item form, people won't ask for minimum production run or minimum packaging, but that's something to be considered. And then also what fits on a full container. So how many packages will go into a full container? Again, that's not many retailers will ask for that, particularly if you're just starting out. That's not something to be concerned, or generally it's not something to be concerned about, but it is something to get into. If you have some questions on that, you can be sure to send me a note at timforrest.com, and I'll be glad to answer that in more detail. But there's several factors that go into containers, shipping full containers, say, for instance, overseas. You've got weight restrictions and also sizing, and also are you going to floor load, or is it going to be on pallets, etc. So, but important for the retailer is going to be the case specification. So you're going to need the length, width, and height of your cases, and then also they will ask you for a cube. There's going to be a spot on the sheet that says what's the cube of your case. The way you figure that out is you take your 3 dimensions, length times width times height. So you multiply that by each other. So your length times your width times your height, and you're going to get an answer. Divide that by 1728. So it's 1,728. So you're converting that. Basically, you're taking those inches, and the retailer wants to know how much space it takes up. They keep up with their space in cubic feet, and so you're converting that to cubic feet by dividing that number by 1728, and that's going to give you your cube. You just go through the sheet, add the additional information, how many on our pallet, what's the height of your pallet, what's your weight of your pallet. They'll ask for tiers and then also height. And so what they're asking for is layers. How many boxes of cases of your product are on each layer, and then how many high does your layer go on the pallet? So if you've got 10 cases per layer and your pallet is 4 layers high, you've got a total of 40 cases on the pallet. Hope this information helped. If you need any more information, or you want to send a message to me, just send me a note at tim@timforrest.com, or you can visit timforrest.com, get the information there. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your help. Hope this provides some value as you're completing new item forms.